For the topic of today's discussion is my 7-day yacht cruise that I took to Croatia. And I did this with several very successful entrepreneurs, and I had so many takeaways. Hey, Courtney Sanders here. Welcome back to my podcast. If you are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, you might want to hop over to YouTube, where you can not only see my crazy facial expressions, but you can see some of the photos and videos for the topic of today's discussion, which is my 7-day yacht cruise that I took to Croatia. And I did this with several very successful entrepreneurs, and I had so many takeaways. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, but I will be inserting, all the footage and all the photos just because it was a crazy, amazing trip, right? Fun fact, Croatia is actually the city where Game of Thrones was shot. And so I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. My sister is. So I made sure to get her some really cool souvenirs. So maybe if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll like to see all the castles and all the different things that we saw. But beyond just the amazing scenery, and I mean, how cool is it to cruise for 7 days on a yacht in the Adriatic Sea? Like, what? Is this real life? That's how I felt the entire time. I was like, wow, how is this my life? But beyond, the amazing experience of the actual scenery and the city, it was really amazing just the conversations that we had, right? So we chartered a yacht. It was, I don't know, how many couples? Maybe 10 couples? Between 7 and 10 couples. We, chartered this yacht and sailed for 7 days. And, most of the couples were entrepreneurs, or at least one of the spouse. I think in every instance, at least one of the spouses was an entrepreneur, if both weren't entrepreneurs. And in many instances, both were entrepreneurs as well. But just the philosophical discussions that we got to have, staying up late at night, hanging out on this yacht, looking at the sea, the ocean in the evening, glass of wine in hand, and really just pontificating about everything. It was just really amazing, and I had a lot of amazing takeaways. And so, this is going to be a casual podcast where I just kind of shared what I walked away with, and how, I really feel like this was a life-changing trip. Again, not just because of the scenery that I saw, but the experience and just the takeaways that I'm going to be applying to my life. So if you want to know what those are, you're in luck, because I'm getting ready to get into it right now. All right, the first takeaway that I walked away with, and I think everyone on the yacht walked away with, was the idea that there are levels to this, right? And I know people say that kind of tongue in cheek, oh, there's levels to this. No, seriously, there are levels to this, right? There are levels to lifestyle. I think that's the biggest takeaway, because when you are on a yacht, even if you're just chartering it, oftentimes when you dock, you will have to, they parallel park against other yachts. So it might be 4, sometimes 5 yachts all parallel parked next to each other on a dock. And so you have to walk through the other yachts to get to the dock on the mainland in order to, get to the area that you are trying to get to. And so because of that, we often got to, kind of briefly chit chat with other people who were on the yachts, and even see some of the other yachts that were docked next to ours as we were walking on the mainland. And it was kind of crazy, because I'm like, wow, people really live like this, right? This was kind of I don't want to say spur of the moment trip, but two of the women who organized the trip were celebrating birthdays, and one, I think, had heard from a friend about Croatia, and they're like, oh, this is kind of crazy. None of us had ever thought about or considered Croatia before, but my friend said it was fun, let's do it. And so we're all like, okay, we sign up and we go. And then we get there, and we're kind of amazed at how Croatia is almost it's definitely one of those, if you know destinations. I'll say it like that, right? It's definitely, it's not hidden, it's on the map, but it's not a destination that is popularly talked about the way, I don't know, Greece or Paris or, certain destinations everybody is going to. But I was shocked that when we got there, there were so many people there, lots of Americans too, right? Because when you travel internationally, you're listening for American accents, lots of American accents, but we could tell that this was definitely a popular destination, and had been a popular destination for a while for, I'll just say it kind of the well-to-do, crowd, or definitely a lot of affluent people hanging out, right? In fact, one of the people in our group had run into a billionaire. If I said their name, you would know who they are. And she was kind of like, are you gassing me? But he said his name, and then she looked him up online, and is looking at his Wikipedia photo, and is looking at him, and is looking at the photo, and is looking at him, and is like, oh snap, like, you are that guy, right? It's really you. So, Croatia is kind of a destination for the like, if you know crowd. Lots of successful entrepreneurs, business people, well-to-do people really hang out there. And I think it was just really eye-opening for all of us on the boat that what we might consider as like a once-in-a-lifetime trip or kind of like this like special thing. There are some people who live like this all the time, right? There are some people where this is just what they do. Like they don't charter the yacht, they own the yacht, right? And they sail around and, they go to different destinations. We're chit-chatting with different people and they're like, oh, is this your first time to Croatia? And we're like, yeah, we had no idea. And they're like, we come every summer, we bring the yacht out and this is how we live, right? And I was like, wow. And so I think we all walked away with this sense of there's levels to this. And this can be normal for you if you want it to be, right? And I get it. Not everybody is into yachts. No, not everybody wants to go to Croatia. I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't want this in particular, but I am saying that I think we often cap what we believe is possible for us because we think that what we are presently experiencing is the standard. And that's actually not true, right? What we are presently experiencing is our standard, because if it weren't our standard, we would insist on something different, right? So, we live at the level of our own standards, but we sometimes mistakenly believe that our standards is the world standards, which is not necessarily true. There are other people who have different standards, right? I'm not going to say better or worse because it's all a choice, but there are other people who have different standards. And because that is their standard, they choose to do whatever is necessary in order to live the lifestyle that is in accordance with the standard that they said that they want to live. And so again, I think a lot of people sell themselves short and they're like, oh, I can never do something like that because they think that that they don't even know that it's something that could be done, right? Like we didn't even know Croatia was really a hotspot destination. Obviously we knew it was a country on a map, but we didn't know that it was this amazing hotspot destination with all these different excursions and all these different amazing things to do. But we also didn't know that people regularly vacation in Croatia and people own yachts and like, this is where they go. And, they decided that this is how they want to live. And so they did whatever was necessary in order to create that kind of lifestyle. And so for all of us, I know for me, especially on the flight back home, I was like, wow, what standards would I like in my life that maybe I haven't orchestrated because it's not that I didn't know it was possible, but I just didn't even know that it was available to me. So, for me, I don't know that I would ever buy a yacht per se, though I definitely want to be a person who flies private, right? Because we had some issues. I'm gonna call out United. I'm sorry. We had some issues with United, all of us in our party flying out. At this time, it was around the July 4th holiday and United had a complete meltdown, strike, whatever, flight attendant strike. My husband almost didn't make it, right? His flight was delayed 3 times. Others in our party, they're so terrible. Their baggage never made it to Croatia. Now, thankfully, we stopped for 3 days in Paris before going on to Croatia. So while we were in Paris, they were able to shop and buy new luggage and have clothes for the trip. But can you believe that? Their luggage literally never made it. So hopefully they got some money from United getting that back. But we were all once we were on the boat, listen, we need to figure out how we can get to a level where we could fly back here private, okay? Because that whole flight experience was terrible. And while some people were saying that kind of in jest, my mind was really open where I was like, you know what? Maybe it is available that we could fly private. What would that look like, right? If nothing else, I feel like the trip really opened me up to at least explore or do a thought experiment about what it would look like for me to be able to have that kind of lifestyle. I felt like I walked away believing that nothing was off limits, right? Because I was like, wow, again, people live like this and this is normal for them. Why am I limiting myself and saying, well, this is not available for me? Why is it available for them and not available for me, right? And I know the obvious answer is oh, money, yeah. But that leads me to the second point that I walked away with on this trip, both from the people that I, got to have great conversations with on the yacht, but also other people that we met out in the town, again, other successful people. It was very clear that if you can solve big problems, you can make big money, right? So again, we limit ourselves. We're like, what? Who owns a yacht? Who lives like that? Who vacations in Croatia every single summer? You know how much money that's going to take? And we immediately write it off because we're like, oh, that's money that I don't have. But I found that very successful people, and especially very ultra wealthy people, focus less on the money And they focus more on the level of value that they have to bring in order for that money to be a natural consequence of producing that type of value. And I find that even the entrepreneurial couples that were on the boat with us, right? All of them were very, very successful. Many of them had much bigger businesses than I did. I noticed that everyone on the boat, for the most part, was focused on solving big problems, right? And I noticed that this is an issue that a lot of small businesses, and I raise my hand, I'm a small business as well, but I think solo entrepreneurs, small businesses get limited. And again, they limit what's possible for them. They have mindset caps around how much money that they can make, not realizing that part of their frustration, why am I not making more money, whatever, is because they're solving small problems, right? If you can solve bigger problems, or honestly, sometimes you solve the same problem, but you solve that problem in a bigger arena or in a bigger context or to a bigger type of client, you will generate more revenue as a result. And so it was really amazing because many of the people who were enjoying Croatia and chilling, on the yachts parked next to us, you get in conversations with them and it's like, oh, well, what do you do? What kind of business you have, whatever. It's not so much that they were in a business that was totally like outside of the realm of possibilities. They started some aerospace, crazy business where they're getting billion-dollar contracts with the government. Nothing like that, but it's just that they solved a problem that maybe you could have solved if it was of interest to you, but they solved a problem in a bigger context and in a bigger arena, right? And so a very simple example I'll give is let's say a makeup artist, right? You could be a makeup artist that specializes in doing makeup for prom and, just for your average, weddings or whatever. All of those are problems that need to be solved, right? 16-year-olds need makeup for their prom pictures. Brides, right, need makeup for their weddings, right? These are very common day-to-day problems that you can solve for a particular group of people who needs makeup. Or you could be, say, a makeup artist on a movie set, right? Doing special effects makeup. You could even be a makeup artist, say, for an artist like Beyonce, right? And I think about Beyonce because on one of the islands that we were on in Croatia, the island of Hvar, had no idea until we got there, but apparently Hvar, Croatia, was where Beyonce got the idea to name Blue Ivy, Blue Ivy. Like she saw some blue ivy, I don't know. Saw something in Hvar. Hvar is actually known for its lavender. There's beautiful lavender. When you get on the island, it just smells amazing. Again, crazy experience. But somehow she had some experience in Hvar and it gave her the idea of Blue Ivy, and that's how she named her daughter Blue Ivy. And another fun fact is the mayor of Blue Ivy, or I don't know what they call it in their country, mayors or governor or something of Blue Ivy, the governor or the mayor of Hvar said that he officially designated Blue Ivy, Beyonce's daughter, as an honorary citizen because the city is what inspired Beyonce to name Blue Ivy, Blue Ivy. Isn't that crazy, right? This is what I'm saying. Croatia is truly, if you know, travel destination. But so I think about Beyonce that if you are a makeup artist, and let's say you do makeup, you could be a makeup artist that does makeup for prom, or you could do makeup for Beyonce and other pop stars like her. Even though you're solving the same problem, even though the technical specifications might be the same in terms of your makeup application or whatever, because you're in a bigger arena with bigger, consequences, right? Beyonce might be on tour. She might also be filming a documentary at the same time that she's on tour and at the same time that she's dancing. And she's dancing for 3 hours and the makeup has to stay the entire time. And then on top of that, she needs privacy and, she needs a makeup artist that she can trust because the press is going to be, looking for all this information. There's so many other implications that go with providing a service or solving a problem, again, for a big player in a big context, than solving a problem either for a small player in a small arena or for a small context, that oftentimes bigger money flows from that as a result. And so that was something that I really noticed from everyone on the boat. Again, everyone was an entrepreneur for the most part, but even the people that we met outside of the boat who also were having this kind of luxurious vacation, but this was normal to them. They were in a financial position to do this because they focused on solving big problems and then they made big money as a result. All right, so since this was a yacht cruise with couples, obviously I had some relationship related takeaways. And I'll say the biggest takeaway that I had in the relationship arena, quite simply was who you marry is one of the most important decisions of your life, right? And thankfully, at least as it stands now, everyone who was on the boat, I think would say that they married well, but it was really enjoyable to see how all the couples interacted with each other, and especially the entrepreneurial couples where both, spouses were in business together. It was really great to see how they divided duties and how they really honored each other's strengths, and they just let the person who's good at this do what they're good at, and then they let the other person who's good at that do what they're good at, right? And I was just reminded, and I was appreciative of my husband as well, because I'm like, man, I got a good one. But everyone who was on the boat, again, really loving couples, and I mean, it was just great to just learn from everybody, and again, see how they all interacted. But I was like, wow, I left the trip really feeling to myself that people don't take marriage seriously enough. I mean, they don't, right? And I get it. Not everybody wants to be married. That's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, if you are looking to get married, understand that who you marry is one of the most important decisions that you can make, right? Especially if you want to be successful, especially if you have an entrepreneurial bent, and especially if you want to build wealth, because it really takes two in tandem, really working together and working towards the same destination, right? I think about the Bible verse that says something to the effect of, one may bring, put 1,000 to flight, but two will put 10,000 to flight, right? And so that speaks to this exponential multiplication effect that happens, right? Two working towards the same goal is not just linear or addition, right? You could do one thing and you could do one thing, therefore the two of you can do two things. No, it's this exponential effect where the two of you can do 10 things, right? You both together can do more than than what you individually could do, but you both can do more than even what the two of you, if you just bring your two talents together, what you would think you'd be able to do. There's this multiplication thing that happens. And that was definitely the case as we spoke with a lot of the couples on the boat. You really got to see kind of okay, he's the kind of silent partner. He's more of the strategist, in the background, but she's really the front facing go-getter. She's, slaying, the dragons and, bringing the business home. And then he's working in the background, getting the operations together and making everything, really work. And so that was just really beautiful to see. And again, I think people enter in relationships in general too casually, and not even just romantic relationships. I think people enter into business partnerships too casually. People enter into even friendships too casually, not realizing that who you are connected with has such a huge impact on what your future is going to look like, but how much more who you marry, right? Because this is the person that you're going to have children with, that your whole line, your whole lineage is going to come from, right? So again, it can't all just be I think this person looks good, or, we have a good time together. But again, if you are legacy minded, if you're generational wealth minded, if success and the business of marriage is as important to you as kind of the lovey-dovey feelings, which I think both are important for the record, right? I'm not saying you should only marry somebody that you don't have affection for, you don't find attractive, you're not interested in just because, they'd be a good business partner, right? Hear me, I'm not saying that. I think it should be both, and it can be both, right? And for everybody on the boat, I know that was definitely the case. Everybody was lovey-dovey. It was definitely a romantic experience, but don't get it twisted, right? It was also oh no, that guy is my ride or die, right? That woman is my ride or die. She gets it, he gets it. We're really getting after it, and they were really, it was really beautiful just to see what they were building together. And like I said, I walked away feeling even more appreciative for my husband and the amazing gifts that he brings to me. Again, not just in our marriage from a romantic standpoint, but just what we're building and the legacy that we're building together for ourselves and for our children. So who you marry is so important, but also just who you partner with in general is very, very important, which brings me to the fourth point that I took away from this amazing yacht trip, which is that your network is your net worth. And I know that's kind of cliche. I know you've probably heard that before, but understand that I mean it in two ways, right? So there's the traditional way that we think of when we think about your network is your network, or your network is your net worth. And we think about it from the standpoint of, if more people know you and they know the type of business that you're in and they know what you have to offer, then more people can pay you you, more people can hire you or do business with you. And that is true, right? I've mentioned elsewhere on this podcast that I am kind of like trialing, or I have a beta revenue stream now, which is a done for you service where, my next big name will teach you everything you need to know in order to build a successful business. But I know some people are busy. I get asked all the time, well, how do you find virtual assistants? How do you find team staff, etc.? And so we're trialing, this beta offering where essentially we'll do all of it for you. We'll build the funnels. We'll even help you produce your course. We will, install people in your business, staff, virtual assistants who can support you in your email marketing, your social media. We'll do all the social media. Like, it's truly done for you, right? Now, it's not cheap, right? There's a retainer, and then we do take a portion of profits that we're able to generate, or sales that we're able to generate from our systems. But I was stunned that even just me talking about it, and not even from a like, oh, I'm trying to sell this to you standpoint, but more like, yeah, this is what I'm working on. What do you guys think? Soliciting business advice, that so many people were like legit, like calling me after the trip, like when we got home, like, yeah, so about that business offering you were talking about, like, I need that, like, where do I sign up? How can I pay you? Whatever. So it was very clear. And even my husband was like, man, like, everybody wants this. This is crazy how much business you were able to generate just by being on vacation, right? Which it wasn't my intention to generate business, but it just kind of happened as a consequence of just, again, my network and being involved with the people that I was involved in. So that's like the traditional way that we think about, oh, your network is your network. But there's also another way that I think we don't think about enough, which is your network is your net worth from an exposure standpoint, right? So your network also is going to open doors for you, and it's going to expose you to things that you might not have known were possible. For instance, I talked previously around how if you solve big problems, you can make big money. There are elements in my own business that I am reorienting to make sure that I can solve bigger problems and I can do it at bigger stages and bigger arenas because of what I was exposed to on that yacht. Even the conversations that, I was having with people, how they were kind of peeling back, the curtain in their own business and showing me like, did you know that you can get these type of contracts and $1 million contracts here and working with corporations here? I personally was exposed to a way of doing business that I never would have been exposed to on my own. But again, that door was like open and shown to me by virtue of who I was connected with and who is in my network. And so I find that a lot of people don't even know like what kind of problems they can solve, or how do I get on a big stage, or how can I get in big arenas, because they're not connected to people who are connected to those opportunities. And so in a very real sense, you want to be really, really diligent about fostering a network of not just people who are on your level, but people who are above your level, or even like a few rungs above your level, right? And I have done that from the very beginning. I talked a lot about how like 2 years ago, I joined a mastermind where I was like the poorest person there, right? They were 7-figure entrepreneurs, multi-7-figure entrepreneurs, 8-figure entrepreneurs. I was the brokest, like least successful person there. I hadn't even had my first $1 million year in business yet, but I was so happy to be there because I was learning so much and I received so much. And so I think we have to get out of this, like always wanting to be the smartest person in the room, our ego, like we don't want to be shown up. I'm like, no, like, please, I will be right. The least smartest, the least successful, the least wealthiest, like whatever person in a room, because I know I'm going to soak up so much and I'm going to learn so much by osmosis, and that's going to allow me to get to the next level. And so I found that in every arena that I'm in, you calibrate quickly to it, right? So if you are in arenas where people are doing better than you, that's a good thing because you're going to calibrate to their level a lot quickly, versus if you're always in rooms where everybody is the same as you, or you're even like the top dog, you're going to find that you're not going to grow and you're not going to get exposed to anything new. You're not going to get exposed to any new doors that are going to be open for you, right? So there's a saying that I always say, which is some doors only open from the inside. And so your network is your net worth from that standpoint, because you want to be connected with people who are maybe a few steps ahead of you, and they can open doors from the inside that you can then step into, that's going to allow you to grow as well. So I hope this podcast slash vlog, maybe, with all the footage, was really helpful for you. But yeah, those are just some amazing takeaways that I am stewing on. I had an amazing experience in Croatia. Beautiful, beautiful country. I highly, highly recommend it. Really enjoy just all my travels, right? All the different places that I've been. And so I can't wait. I got to think about where am I going to go next, right? Where else are we going to go? But I really hope that wherever I go next, I get to do it, with these entrepreneurial couples, and I get to take more trips like this because it is just so eye-opening. So If you enjoyed this, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, make sure that you subscribe. And either way, make sure that you are following me on Instagram. It's CourtneyLSanders on Instagram. And if you want to learn more about any of my programs or offerings, whether it's that Done For You service that we are doing a beta trial of, or even my new coaching certification program, you can click the link in the description box or in the show notes or wherever it is, based on whatever platform you are consuming this content on. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.